Xbox is raising prices in 2023, and I'll tell you all you need to know about it. Microsoft confirms this shocking Activision Blizzard detail, and I got bad news for all my Xbox One owners out there. Let's discuss. If you want to make sure that you're Xbox ready this holiday season, I have links down in the description below with all sorts of stuff down there. Consoles, controllers, headsets, TVs, washing machines. As per usual, I've gathered up a number of stories from off the internet, from around the industry, to make sure you're up to date on all Xbox related news that you're Xbox ready. First up, guys, I got some bad news. Xbox held out as long as they could with $60 games, but starting in 2023, that's all gonna change. They're gonna raise the price to $70 on their first party titles, and yes, that includes games like Forza Motorsport 8, Redfall, and Starfield. A spokesperson from Xbox told IGN, "This price reflects the content, scale, and technical complexity of these titles. As with all games developed by our teams at Xbox, they will also be available with Game Pass the same day they launch." Now, this is a bummer. There's really no way to cut it. $60 games for Xbox first-party titles was part of this image that Xbox had going for them, where they were the consumer-friendly platform. They had Game Pass, they had cheaper games, they had a cheaper console with the Series S. But if you keep up with the channel, with Xbox news in general, you also sort of knew that this was coming. Xbox leadership did talk about that there was going to be some price increases in the future, and that included games, Game Pass, and their hardware. And I came out on the channel, I was like, you know what, probably the first price increase that we're going to see from Xbox is going to be on their first party games, a $60 to $70 increase, and here we are. Now, obviously, when this generation started, PlayStation was the first to make that price increase, and there was a lot of controversy around that, but the prevailing narrative, the discourse around the $70 PlayStation games was that, oh, the games are worth it that they're putting out. I'm willing to pay $70 for that. Hopefully, when they start releasing these new games, these next-gen only titles like Starfield, the quality of the game is going to match that $70 price tag. I think that's all that we're hoping for at this point. Sure, I bought God of War Ragnarok for $70, and I gotta say, I was like, okay, that feels like a game that was worth $70. That seems fair. But not all games are gonna be like that. Hopefully, the Xbox first-party stuff will be worth it. But also, this price increase may not even be that big of a deal because we know that all Xbox first-party games come to Game Pass the same day that they're released. So if you got Game Pass, it's like, what am I even worried about? Next up, it's time for your daily dose of the Activision Blizzard acquisition. Now, naturally, a large part of this deal, a lot of the opposition from Sony centers around Call of Duty. They don't want Call of Duty to become exclusive to Xbox. They don't want Xbox putting in special features and special maps and content that you can only get on Xbox, all things that they do on their platform, of course. And Xbox has been trying to tell people, no, guys, it's not about Call of Duty. Call of Duty is a sweet thing to have under our umbrella, but it's more about Candy Crush. And in order to prove that, we're going to offer Sony a 10-year contract guaranteeing that all Call of Duties that come out within that time span are going to be on PlayStation. That's what Xbox told the New York Times a couple of weeks ago. And on Monday, Xbox President Brad Smith confirmed that this deal we've been hearing about, 10 years, guaranteed Call of Duty on PlayStation, is 100% real. It's on the table. Sony hasn't responded to it yet. The writer says Sony has emerged as the loudest objector to the acquisition. It's as excited about this deal as Blockbuster was about the rise of Netflix. Very interesting comparison. Very interesting. The main supposed potential anti-competitive risk Sony raises is that Microsoft will start making Call of Duty available on PlayStation, yada, 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 blah, 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 blah. That's why we've offered a 10-year contract to make each new Call of Duty release available on PlayStation the same day as it comes to Xbox. We're open to providing the same commitment to other platforms and making it legally enforceable by regulators in the US, UK, and European Union. Knowing how this news cycle has been going down and how it's been progressing, it's probably not going to be good enough for Sony. It's probably not going to be good enough for these regulators. I wouldn't be surprised if Sony came back and was like, listen, you got a pinky promise, you got to swear on your mother's grave that you won't be putting Call of Duty titles on Game Pass. And if you do, you got to make them available to our service, PS Plus Extra and Premium. I know that sounds ridiculous, but that just seems like I just have a feeling that's what's going to come next out of this whole news cycle. And especially last week, there was a lot of news surrounding this deal that was pretty discouraging for the Xbox side. There were reports floating around that the FTC was planning to file an antitrust lawsuit blocking the deal, but a new report says that the FTC is allegedly split over this deal. Pure Xbox wrote this article that references a New York Post article that claims Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard has caused a rift in the FTC. They They say FTC chair Lina Khan is supposedly pushing to block the deal, but others are leaning towards Microsoft, including the FTC sole Republican commissioner, Christine Wilson, as well as at least one of the 4-member panel's 3 Democratic commissioners. It's suggested by DC insiders that a potential 2-2 tie in a 4-person vote isn't something that the FTC chair is likely to risk, as it would throw Khan's authority over the agency into question and effectively okay the deal anyway. They go on to quote a former FTC chairman saying that a remedy or a concession like the 10-year contract that they've put out there would go a long way in getting this deal to go through. It seems like the pendulum has kind of swung back in Xbox's favor when it comes to news surrounding this deal. Last week it was all doom and gloom. Oh, it's a long shot. Oh, the FTC is going to file a lawsuit. And it's like, oh, the FTC is split. Okay, that's a little bit more positive. Xbox has come out and said, okay, if it goes to court, guys, we are willing to fight for this deal. And Activision has come out and said, listen, if it gets to that point, we are willing to fight for this deal too. Next up, let's talk about the Game Awards, baby. The Game Awards is going to be tomorrow at the Microsoft Theater. It's going to start at 4:30 Pacific time, I believe. And let me run you through a scenario. You're a video game fan, you're watching the Game Awards, and you're watching these different categories, these different award nominations, and you're sitting there thinking, damn, I haven't played any of these games. It happens with me at the Oscars too. Like sometimes I'll tune into the Oscars, the Emmys, and I'm like, damn, I haven't watched any of this stuff. I have no idea who's gonna win. That certainly happened to me a couple of times. It's like, oh, I've played like 1 or 2 of the games in this category, but not all of the games. What if I told you you can play 16 games that are nominated for this year's Game Awards as part of your Game Pass subscription? So if you want to do a little last minute catching up, they actually have a really helpful section of this on the PC Xbox app that tells you all of the games that are nominated that are on the service right now. Now, I haven't played all 16 of these games, but I've played a lot of them. Tunic is on Game Pass, and that has 3 nominations at the Game Awards. Now, do not let Tunic deceive you guys. I know you look at this game, you even look at the cover, and it's like, okay, it's a cute little fox with a cute little sword, and then you play the game, it's like, okay, the world is made out of these cute little geometric shapes. It's got this nice, soothing soundtrack, but I was shocked playing through it. It was billed as like a Legend of Zelda inspired game, but I felt like it was more like Elden Ring, honestly. I was playing Tunic while I was playing Elden Ring. Maybe that kind of influenced my thinking, but a lot of the same mechanics that I was using in Elden Ring carried over to Tunic. A lot of this game's combat is based on your ability to time your dodge roll. You have a very small window when you're dodge rolling as this cute little adorable fox where you're invulnerable. So you kind of had to time it to where someone's shooting at you or trying to attack you. You can roll through the attack, and that's highly beneficial to the game. And also, every time you use a save point, you get back health, but all the enemies that you've beaten previously come back to life. Exactly like resting at a site of grace in Elden Ring. If you just wanted to blow through this game for yourself, there is a setting that literally makes you put on God mode so you can just walk through the game and experience what it has to offer. As Dusk Falls is also nominated for 2 awards. You can play it on Game Pass as well. This game was super surprising to me. Not a game I would usually go for. It starts off telling the story of this family who's traveling across country and then get mixed up in some interesting scenarios. I'm trying not to spoil it, but basically it's one of those games that's more of an interactive movie with some gaming elements thrown in. Every choice that you make has a branching narrative that affects where you go with the story. I got to go to the launch party with the game. It was super fun getting to talk to the team, especially Caroline Marshall. She had nothing but good things to say about Xbox. She said that they were 100% all in on her vision for this game. And before you knew it, man, I was pretty invested in this family. There's a time skip in the middle of this game, and it's like, oh crap, the decisions I made back then before the time skip affect the game's world right now. Metal Hellsinger's also on here. It got 1 nomination, and this game was so much fun. It's kind of like Doom, where you're fighting through hell and you're killing all these demons, but it's a rhythm-based FPS game, and the more on beat you are with your attacks and your shooting and your slashing with your sword, the more damage you do. And not only that, the more that you build your streak by shooting on beat and attacking on beat, that unlocks more of this heavy metal soundtrack that they got going on. So at first, when you have no hit streak, it's like, okay, you got a little bit of drums, you got some bass maybe, and then as you build your streak, you get a little bit more, some guitar comes in, more of the instrumentals come in, and then when you max out your streak, that's when the vocals come in and you you're really shredding and you're really feeling it. It's so satisfying. You can honestly beat this game in like a weekend or two. I even did all the challenges in addition to the story, and it was only like, it wasn't really that long. Inevitably, I found myself just like head bobbing, instinctually trying to keep on the rhythm, like, I did play this game with a wired controller because the latency is super important. Like, it's kind of tough if you have a lot of controller latency and you're trying to play a game that's all about rhythm. But if you don't have a way that you can plug in your controller to your Xbox, whether it be distance, whether it be equipment, they do have a thing that measures your controller latency and then takes that into account for your gameplay. Return to Monkey Island is also on here. This is only on Xbox Series X and S consoles for whatever reason, and on PC. I haven't played this game, but I was at Comic-Con this past weekend, and I was watching a panel with Elijah Wood and Sean Astin, and someone asked Elijah what he was playing, and he said, I'm a huge fan of the original Monkey Island, so I'm playing Return to Monkey Island. And of course, A Plague Tale Requiem is also on here. This is the sequel to A Plague Tale Innocence. This is nominated for a Game of the Year, straight up Game of the Year. I don't think it's gonna win, but I did have a fun time with it. I enjoyed the story of the game. They expanded the scope and the cast of the characters compared to the first game. It felt a lot more epic. It felt a lot crazier. And A Plague Tale Requiem is not as dependent on sneaking around as the first game is. In the first game, it's pretty much all about sneaking, and I have no problem with that if I'm a guy who's sneaking around with superpowers, like the sneak missions in Spider-Man, or sneaking around in Origami, or even sneaking around in Assassin's Creed. Like, I feel like that is a lot more exciting than the sneaking around in A Plague Tale Innocence, where it's like, you're just a regular person. Of course, that kind of adds to the tension, where it's like, okay, if I get caught, I'm literally just like a little girl with her brother. I have nothing that can get me out of the situation. In this game, it's like, it kind of encourages you to kill people more, which is a little bit crazy. You have your sling, which knocks people out instantly. You have a crossbow in this game, so you can shoot people with crossbows. And they give you a lot more alchemical tools, so if you're like, okay, I just want to light this dude on fire, you can totally do that. It opened up the game a lot more for me. Always tried to sneak at first, but if I did end up getting caught, I had multiple ways to get out of that situation versus the game being totally lost. As a reminder, the Game Awards is going down tomorrow. It's going down tomorrow. Me and Jimmy are going to be there at the Microsoft Theater. I am so excited. But if you want to check it out for yourself, all the major guys have a stream of it going on. Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, IGN. It's going down at 4:30 Pacific time. I don't know what that means for your specific time zone, but I'm in Pacific time, so that's what I go by. Next up, I got some sort of bad news for all my Xbox One owners out there. I know a lot of you watch this channel, but as we've discussed before in these videos, we're starting to see more and more games that are next gen only. Gotham Knights, Return to Monkey Island, Starfield is apparently going to be next gen only or Xbox Series X and S only. And according once again to Pure Xbox, this developer from Need for Speed says that leaving behind the Xbox One was transformative for their game. Now, this game just came out not too long ago, but when they initially announced everything, they had hoped to do this cross-generational sort of thing. They were going to launch for the Xbox Series X and S and for Xbox One and PlayStation 4, but they ended up being like, nah, we're just going to focus on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and S. In an interview with Traxion, the game's creative director had this to say: as we were going through it, the stuff we could do with current gen consoles is just so much better than what you can do on previous gen. We wanted to double down on it. We wanted to deliver the best possible experience to players that could play it. Playing it all in 4K 60 frames a second HDR is an absolutely transformative racing game experience. With the new physics system, the new handling, the new effects, and new graphics, I feel like anyone that plays it will totally understand. Now, that last part, I don't know if everyone's gonna understand, especially for all of you who own an Xbox One S, a One X, a base Xbox One, haven't made the upgrade yet for whatever reason. And I also haven't played this game for myself, so I might be talking about this story, and you watching at home might be like, wait, I've played this game, and it makes no sense why it would be on next-gen consoles only, the Xbox Series X and S only. And while it may not be translating in the way that they want it to, it seems that the developing team behind Need for Speed, for whatever reason, thought it would just be easier to leave last gen behind. And we're probably going to be seeing a lot more of that going forward into the future. Obviously, we were just talking about 2023, Redfall, Starfield, next gen games, and they're getting that next gen price tag, $70. But it seems more and more that we're at the end of Xbox One getting new games, new stuff. And I know that might give a lot of people anxiety society, obviously change is difficult. People don't like change. But guys, it has been 2 years since the Xbox Series X and S launched. It's time to move on from the Xbox One. Anyways, guys, that's all the news I have for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. And thanks once again for getting me to 100,000 subscribers. That was an amazing achievement. I couldn't have done it without you. I couldn't have done it without the people I work with, like Jimmy. Please, please, please hit me up on Xbox Live. I'm at Lord Janitor. I'm on Twitter at StayXboxReady. And I'm also going to start streaming regularly now that I have this new setup that's closer to my internet router. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Once again, thanks so much for joining. We'll see you in the next video.